Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Spann Report podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann, and this is the Art of Disagreement, Volume 3, in conjunction with the Haterazzi Radio Show. I got the homie, Mr. Gates of the Haterazzi Radio Show here with me. Say what's up to the people, fam.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Thank you for coming. Let's do this.
Indeed. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this, to this debate. And tonight, what we will be discussing is the Black Lives Matter movement. How effective is the Black Lives Matter movement? Is it effective at all? I believe it is. The homie Mr. Gates disagrees. He doesn't believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is effective in this current day and time. So we're gonna be talking about this tonight, man. We're gonna talk about a lot of different things, politically, tactically, optics, all of that shit, everything. We're going to talk about it here on the Spann Report, here on the Haterazzi Radio Show. This will be broadcast in conjunction with the Haterazzi Radio Show. So everybody just sit back, relax. You can be a part of the discussion as well, but sit back and relax and enjoy this discussion that we're going to have today. One of the things that we really wanted to kind of stress with this discussion, with these Art of Disagreement debates that we have, is the fact that it is possible to have a debate, to be on polar opposites of an issue, and still have a mutual respect for one another at the end of the day. That's what this is for. This is what this is about. You know, we tend to lose that in today's dialogue, in today's punditry and everything else. We tend to lose that ability to be able to walk away from a conversation with a mutual respect. And so what we feel like this can help foster is an example. Is an example that we can be on polar opposites of an issue and still walk away with the mutual respect. So before we get started, I gotta let you guys know how you can get in touch with us here, but especially here at the Spann Report podcast. First, you can hit up the hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's 313-288-0485. Leave me those voicemail messages. I will play those messages on the show. And of course, I will respond to those messages on the show. You can send me an email at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Leave me those emails. And of course, I will read those emails and I will respond to those emails live on the air on the podcast. You can also hit your man up on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. Chop it up with me throughout the week. Send your man reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Preferably 5 stars. Let people know what you're thinking about the Spann Report podcast and the Haterazzi Radio Show. Leave a review on iTunes and Stitcher. It really helps the show grow and it costs you nothing. And for all of your Spann Report needs, go to www.thespannreport.com. Check out this episode because it's also streaming live on thespannreport.com. All for you guys to go to let us know where you stand on this particular issue. Do you think the Black Lives Matter movement is effective in this day and age, or is it not effective in this particular point in time? So go to thespannreport.com and you can get a little feedback, bro.
Oh, on my end?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let me do this then. Okay, continue. It won't happen again. Go ahead.
But spannreport.com and participate in the poll. Let us know where you guys stand as far as your thoughts on the effectiveness of the Black Lives Matter movement, whether or not you believe it's effective or not. Indeed, man. What's going on with you, bro?
What's up, brother? Yeah, I'm good. It's hot as shit in Vegas, but summer's coming to a close, so that's good.
Yeah, I can feel it. My sinuses are starting to act up, and it's some bullshit.
All
right. Now, of course, everybody who's here knows that we're on polar opposites of this particular issue. We both have differing views as to the effectiveness of the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm on the side of, I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is very effective and has shown itself to be very effective. Although some of the tactics have caused some people to pause, I think some of these tactics have garnered some results that folks aren't necessarily aware of, or they don't necessarily appreciate immediately. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I mean, like we got a lot of things that we can cover as far as tactics, as far as politics, as far as who's involved. But that's where I'm at with it. Where are you, bro?
They pretty much just got a platform this week. They before this, there was no platform. It was like, was it about police brutality? Was it about immigration? Was it about women's rights? Just specifically women being abused by police? They were all over the place with their arguments, and they lost me right away. Black people in America are obsessed with history. We're obsessed with the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, or we'll jump all the way clear back to ancient Egypt. And that's fine, because history is important. But if you're not learning from history, then you're not getting anywhere. If you've learned anything from history, you will know that protesting, crying, complaining does not get you anywhere. That does not get you results. Oh, they'll turn a few political knobs for you to kind of appease you for the moment. But in the long run, it doesn't work. Otherwise, we would have been done with this in the 1960s.
Okay. Well, you know what? I believe that one of the things about just progress, period, is that there's never really, no one's ever satisfied with the amount of progress that's been made. Correct? I mean, you think about the fact that we always want more. And there are always going to be instances where some shit is just not going to be the way it should be, and folks are going to have to kind of make some other people uncomfortable to get it to where they want it to be, in order to kind of even out the playing field, so to speak. So when we think,
oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that you listen. Victims don't get respect; they get sympathy. Right? That's all you get. You don't get respect. Respect is not something that you beg out of someone. Respect is something you take. And this approach I believe, is really counterproductive. The Black Lives Matter movement, in my opinion, is the result, and this is going to be very controversial. A lot of people are going to be upset with what I say here, of 40 plus years, single mother homes, dependency on the welfare state by a large number of those single mothers, and reliance and dependence on democratic and liberal policies. This is the result. You get a bunch of beggars, complainers, and criers, and this is what I'm seeing. And that's the main thing. I mean, Malcolm X warned us about the Liberal Party 60 years ago. We didn't listen to him. He warned us about the effects of poor fathering and a broken family unit. We didn't listen to him. And this is the result of that. If you could name one masculine male that you've seen representing for the forefront of that organization, I'm all ears. And this is not a slight to gay men, but the front lines of our community is not your place. And it shouldn't be the place of our women. We are the only community that forces our women to take the brunt of our community and our families and hold it on her shoulders. And the Black Lives Matter movement is a result and an example of that.
Okay. Well, one of the things you just mentioned, you said you wanted to hear a name of a masculine black male on the forefront of the Black Lives Matter movement. We could talk about Shaun King just this week, who's one of the forefront members, or who's one of the largest supporters, or one of the most well-known supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement, who kind of had his name dragged through the mud by Breitbart. Right now, one of the things that came up with Shaun King was they tried to besmirch his character and say that this was a man who was portraying himself to be biracial when he wasn't. Right. Mm-hmm. And I've heard people, I've seen people I've heard people on podcasts talk about this. I've seen people run with this on Facebook. I've seen people run with this on Twitter, that all of a sudden Shaun King is the next Rachel Dolezal. He's faking his shit. He's not necessarily, he's not a black man, or he's not biracial. He's fraudulent about how he's representing himself, right? Mm-hmm. To the point where this man had to go and say, look, man, the man that is listed on my birth certificate is not my biological father. My mother had me through another relationship from a man that she wasn't married to, right? Yeah. He had to go out and publicly explain this to people because Breitbart, which is another thing that was kind of funny to me, that folks are running with a story from Breitbart.com who doesn't give a fuck about you, but you will run with the story from Breitbart to kind of discredit somebody who's actually on the front line speaking on behalf of some of the things that you want, right? Folks ran with that. And so, when you think about, you talk about the fact that, there are women on the front lines of this movement. I think the fact that there was women who started this movement. As a matter of fact, I think the three women who started this was Opal Tometi, Patrisse Cullors, and Alicia Garza, who started the Black Lives Matter movement after the Trayvon Martin incident a couple years ago. So it's one of those things where even with this movement, and we talk about whether or not our women are at the forefront of it, I think to a large degree is kind of sad that more brothers aren't being supportive of the fact that these women are out here on the front lines, not necessarily begging, because we've seen what they've gone through with Bernie Sanders, with Martin O'Malley. We've seen they aren't necessarily begging, and this is what's pissing a lot of folks off. They aren't begging; they are forcefully saying what the fuck they want.
Okay. A couple of things you just said there. Okay. The men are allowing these women to do that. Again, that is another result of men growing up in single mother homes for the last 40 years. They're not allowed to step in front of the women, or they don't believe they are. Okay. But as far as them, no matter what you call it, no matter how they present it, they are begging. They are begging. White people, please like us. White people, please stop shooting us, or whatever they want. They're begging. Now they might be doing it with tough, but see, you got to understand the community, the people that they're attacking, that they're interrupting, are looking at them like, you in what army? They're not scared of these women. These women ain't scaring nobody by grabbing a microphone and screaming. All they're doing is, the only good thing I think is coming out of this is they're losing black support from the Democratic Party. And I think that's great, because black people need to stop sucking off the tit of the liberal party. So I really hope that the Democratic Party abandons their support of the black community, because what this organization should be doing is organizing black people. They should, that same vigor and that same force that they're going to these Democrats and one Republican with, they should be bringing home. To How about we educate some of these young single mothers on how to raise their children? How about we educate some of these young brothers and sisters in the hood how to deal with police altercations? Teach them some of the laws. That's where that energy needs to be. They're focusing it. It's going in the wrong direction. They're trying to bully a machine that has historically proven again and again it does not give a shit about you. It might turn a few knobs, a few political knobs to make it look good, but at the end of the day, they're gonna be like, all right, shut up, get out of here. They're not afraid of these women. These women are just making asses out of themselves for nothing.
I don't necessarily believe that it has to be something of them being afraid of these women, right? So when you talk about, there should be programs where we're teaching these young women how to, these young single women, how to be mothers and how to be parents. I actually know somebody who's running a nonprofit called the Advocates for Adolescent Mothers, who teaches who is a support group for teen moms. Someone I went to high school with is already has a nonprofit doing these types of things. I don't necessarily believe that the Black Lives Matter movement has to encompass everything. We all have a role to play in how we navigate and how we conduct ourselves as a community. Everybody has their role. So to say that Black Lives Matter has to do this and they have to do that when what they're attacking is a specific issue.
What is it? Because I'm lost. Because I watched the Netroots. She was all over the place. She said she wanted some immigration reform and all. I was like, okay, what's that? And then they started talking about police brutality. Then it was just say her name, women only. What do they want?
Here's the thing. And this is one of the things that I think has kind of gotten lost, is the fact that when we're talking about Black Lives Matter, for the most part, We are talking about black people being killed at the hands of the state.
Okay.
Right? We are talking about black people losing their lives at the hands of the state. So when we talk about when you have women demanding that Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders say her name, they're saying the names of the women who were also killed at the hands of the state. We've had these demonstrations about Eric Garner. We've had these demonstrations about Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. We've had these demonstrations about a plethora of brothers. There's always a brother whose name has become a hashtag, and very seldom until recently have we started giving equal attention to the women who are also being killed at the hands of the state.
Okay.
So I think when you hear women talk about say her name, is like, yeah, she was also killed at the hands of the state. Why are we not talking about her? This woman, Sandra Bland, she was killed at the hands of the state. Why are we not talking about her? All of these instances of women being killed at the hands of the state is like, listen, we are dealing with this issue too. We aren't necessarily talking about these issues at the same time.
Okay, but is this a pandemic? Let's be honest here. All right. Now check the numbers. In the last 2 years, since 2013, there have been to today, till right now, there have been roughly 470 black people killed, black men and women and children killed at the hands of police officers. That's in 2 years. Okay. And, of course, when we have this argument, black on black crime comes up. It is a big issue. It is a big issue. And a much bigger issue, a much bigger problem than police shootings of black people or anybody. Right. Because I can take Chicago alone. All right. Since we're talking about Chicago, since Chicago's always in the news, of just 2014, 353 black on black homicides. Out of those, out of black, police shootings, I think there was 5. Okay. In 2014 alone, 353. Now, of course, the argument would be, well, when Tyrone kills JJ, he goes to jail. The cops don't go to jail. However, 292 murders unsolved in that city. Just in 2014, unsolved. So either we got a bunch of elusive Jack the Rippers running around. And remember, these black people who are killing people, the worst of criminals, are walking freely in our communities. Right? Now the Black Lives Matter. We're talking about black meaning melanated, lives meaning breathing. If we're going to talk about Black Lives Mattering, then we need to talk about everything that's taken black lives. And this includes the lives that are being taken at home. Because I can see a white cop coming. I can see a Klansman coming. I cannot see my own coming. I should not have to worry about my own. These women need to bring that message home. They need to turn that energy home. The system is not fucking with you. At the end of this, you will see, at the end of this, nothing's going to change. And in 10, 15 years, you're going to have Black Lives Matter Part 2. It's going to be the same shit. It's been the same shit since the late 1800s. It's going to be the same shit. It's not going nowhere, right? So until we focus on home, see, I'm the type of father that if I'm working with my children, I don't give a shit what them kids down the street do. You can't bring up black on black crime without somebody saying, well, white people do it too. White people, pedophilia. I'm not talking about white people. I don't give a shit what white people do. This is my community, right? If I'm reprimanding my child for something, I don't care what the other kids were doing. I'm talking about you and what you're doing, right? Those women, this energy should be brought home. I'm telling you, they're wasting their time with Clinton. They're wasting their time with Bernie. They're wasting their time with O'Malley. Nothing's going to change. Now, the women that are out there on the forefront, they're gonna get a few little peanuts. They're gonna get a few, they might get some nice cushy jobs, some government jobs. But just like the Occupy Wall Street, it's gonna disappear right after this election. You will see that. Okay,
now let's unpack this a little bit because you mentioned Chicago, bro, and I'm from Chicago.
Okay,
I know a little bit about what's going on there.
Okay.
Right. I was there in Chicago when it was really popping. What we see in Chicago right now and this narrative that is going on in the media, and Fox News uses Chicago a lot, man. I used a clip a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about the Confederate flag, and somehow that conversation went from, well, what about what they're doing in Chicago? Right. Chicago gets used a whole lot. Right. And it was interesting how often folks talk about the amount of crime in Chicago and how Chicago has this nickname Chirac, right? So I looked up a little bit on my hometown, right? Last 10 years, the homicide numbers in the last 10 years in Chicago, right? 95, it was 828. 96, 796. 97, 761. 1998, 704. 1999, 643. 2000, 633. 2001, 667. 2002, 656. 2003, 601. 2004, 453. 2005, 451. 2006, 471. 2007, 448. 2008, 513. 2009, 459. 2010, 436. 2011, 435. 2012, 516. 2013, 441. And in 2014, 432. From 1995 to 2014, it's been a 47% drop in murders in Chicago.
Okay, but hold on. How about
hold on, listen. Hold on. Let me finish. There's been a damn near 50% drop. Damn near a 50% drop in the amount of killings that's going on in Chicago. But that is not what is told to you. The only thing most people hear is, hey, man, what's going on in Chicago? What about what's going on in Chicago? What about what's going on in Chicago? Talk about the fact that there's almost a 50% drop in the amount of murders that's going on in Chicago now than what it was when I was living there and I was a fucking kid.
Okay.
Nobody talks about it.
All right, let's talk.
Nobody talks about it.
No.
They always use my city.
Let's talk about
the crime epidemic going on there.
Okay, let's talk about that. Now, I would like you to take a calculator, add all those numbers up, that whole 50% drop. Okay, even at your lowest number, you're still paling. The police killings are still paling in comparison. That's only Chicago. You're not talking about LA. You're not talking about Las Vegas, New Orleans, Oakland. We're getting Holocaust numbers here. How can you to say that, okay, well, that doesn't matter? Because that's basically what you're saying. Black lives matter only when a white cop says, yes.
That's not what I'm saying.
Not you. No, not you. I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. If I bring up black on black crime and they say, oh, here he goes, Coon, Uncle Tom. I'm like, have they considered the fact that maybe you're being socially engineered to focus on what's less important than what's really important, which is home? You dig what I'm saying? It's like, what sense does it make if we're going to try to look for law enforcement reform, if we're still allowing criminals to run wild and hold our people hostage in these neighborhoods, right? Yes, I think it's great that those numbers are going down. But again, take a calculator and count all those lives, all right? And let's compare those against the lives that have been taken by police officers. You will see that they pale in comparison. And this is where our focus needs to be. Now, somebody posted an article and tagged me and you in it. And they were saying, okay. They're basically trying to prepare you as Desmond Hill. Okay, if he brings up black on black crime, because black people are obsessed with the past when it fits their narrative, right? They don't learn from it, but they'll pull. So it was all these letters that white people had written to Martin Luther King, telling him basically to shut up and to focus on his own community, black on black crime. First of all, at that time, you had overt racist laws. Clear. You cannot come in here. You cannot stand here. You cannot drink from that. You cannot use that, right? So that was a bigger issue than whatever was going on in the community, because we couldn't fix our community until those issues were fixed. But those issues were fixed. So since then,
fixed.
Oh, they absolutely were fixed.
Yeah. No, bro. No.
Where do you live that you can't go into a restaurant and eat?
We can go right back into the numbers, and I can tell you specifically why those numbers weren't fixed. Now, mind you, I just gave you that 47% drop in the murder rate of Chicago, right?
Okay.
Per the FBI, uniform crime reports, right? White males, 83% of white people were killed by other white folks, right? 66% of people arrested for rape were white and mostly male. 62.9% of people arrested for aggravated assault were white and mostly male. 58% of violent crime arrests are of white people. 68.2% of property crime and arrests are of white people. 72.4% of sex offenses, except rape and prostitution arrests, are of white people. 67.7% of drug abuse violation and arrests are of white people. Yet white people are a fucking minority in the prison population. How the fuck is that fixed? How is that fixed?
Okay, no, you're right. You're right. Hey, what you're saying is absolutely true, and I'm glad you brought it up. This is due to Democratic liberal policy. You can thank President Bill Clinton for that, for his Violent Crimes and Law Enforcement Bill of 1944, which was written, 1994, which was written by Joe Biden, Democratic senator, now the Vice President of the United States. Now, Black people will tell you that Bill Clinton was the best president in history. He was the best president in history. He signed the bill that incarcerated more Black and Latino men than anyone in history. Okay? That bill allocated $9.7 billion to the prison industrial complex, not to fix up the existing prisons, but to build more and bigger, right? It also took education out of the prison system. It took exercise out of the prison system. It gave longer prison terms to even non-violent prisoners and low-level drug offenses. That was Democratic policy. Yet we'll still vote. We'll still vote Democrat. We're not even considering, and I'm not saying we should consider Republican, but we should consider making ourselves our own block and going with whichever independent or Green Party or whoever best fits our needs. But yeah, everything that you just named has to do with the Clintons, So while these girls are running up on O'Malley and running up on Bernie and Jeb and all these guys, Hillary, they've been pretty soft with her, way soft.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say they've been soft with her. I would say that they haven't been able to get to her in the way that they would have gotten to O'Malley or Bernie Sanders. Because of the amount of security that Hillary Clinton demands, because she's a former first lady, she has Secret Service protection, right?
Okay, but they did get in front of her. They did get in front of her, and they put the most effeminate male. Like I said, they didn't put Sean King in front of him. They put the most effeminate male to get in there and beg. She asked him, "What do you want? Could you tell white people to stop being mean to us?" Okay, and then she said, "Well, this is what you need to do. Don't tell Black people what they need to do." Okay, I'll just talk to white people. They had her right there. She says, "What do you want?" See, these people are politically ignorant, is what I'm trying to tell you. What they should have said is, okay, listen, we got this many. If they had organized into a voter block, we got this many people who vote to you. We have this much money for your campaign. These are the things we need. We need money for Black business. We need tougher sentences for officers who break the law. We need this. We need that. They didn't do none of that. They were just in there. Well, could you please tell white people to like us, because we've been trying ever since slavery and they just won't. That's all this is. This whole movement is about. It's begging white people. They're trying to be mean about it. It's that whole "don't nobody bring me no bad news." It's that whole approach to trying to punk white people into liking them. It's some bullshit.
I don't think it's anything about punking them into liking you. I think they've been very forceful in the way that they've demanded some of the things that a lot of black folks are saying that they want, right? We could talk about that whole thing when it happened in Seattle. Like a lot of folks were upset with those women in Seattle with how they talked about or how they presented themselves to Bernie Sanders. But hold on. And I talked about this last week on my show. Most all the criticisms of those women were of how they looked, how they sounded, and the stereotypes or the stereotypes, so to speak, right? Yeah, nobody had anything to say about the specifics of what those women were talking about. Nobody had anything to say about that. Them women talked about a new prison being built up for children in Seattle. They talked about gentrification in Seattle. They talked about a plethora of different things that were affecting black folks in that about that. But I heard a whole hell of a lot of motherfuckers talking about she had green weave in her hair.
Yeah, which was loud.
She looked like a angry black. Like you so worried about. Now, this is the thing. We talked about respectability politics before. Those are the folks who are worried about what white folks are thinking of them. Those are the ones who are worried about, you could have went about it this way. You didn't have to go up there and talk to them like that. You could have presented it in other different. They're so worried about what white folks are thinking of them. These women went up there with specifics and they talked about what they needed from that community or what they needed from Bernie Sanders in order for him to earn that vote. And everybody talked about what they look like. Nobody talked about what they said to that man and the specifics that they brought forth.
Okay. If President Obama was on the campaign trail wearing a baseball cap and sagging his pants, would you have taken him serious?
Listen, that's not President Obama.
Okay.
They're not President
No, what I'm trying to say. Okay, what I'm trying to say is when he was on the campaign trail, when he wasn't President Obama, when he was just on the when he was campaigning for your vote, right? Listen, this is something called marketing. It's just plain and simple marketing. I don't care what it is you're trying to sell, because they're trying to sell something. Regardless of what it is, they're trying to sell something. Presentation is everything, right? There's a big difference between Michelle Obama, a black woman, and Nene Leakes, a hood rat. All right, when you conduct yourself like a hood rat, ain't nobody listening to you. When you throwing a tent, how you gonna scream at the top of your lungs, "We are being reasonable"? That was ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got something to say, the dude told him, "I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you talk after he talked." No, we're gonna shut you down right now. Ain't nobody trying to listen to you at that point. Ain't nobody trying to listen to you on what you're saying, because at the end of the day, you have no power. You have not empowered your community, because you don't give a shit about black on black crime. So your community is all fucked up. What power do you have? Ain't nobody worried about these women. Ain't nobody worried about them. And getting up there with green and purple weave, they look ridiculous. They did.
That's part of that respectability politics bullshit.
It's just marketing. It's poor marketing.
No, because we're talking about direct action protesting. There's never going to be a perfect protest in order for people to say, "Hey, you know what? They did that exactly right."
Because
nobody does that. Hold on, listen.
Work.
If protest didn't work, then why the hell did the Montgomery bus boycott work?
That was a form of boycott. No, that was a boycott, not a protest.
Was that not a form of protest?
What, boycott?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the only proper form of protest. Getting up and screaming and crying, that's just who feels sorry for the little fat kid in the toy aisle who's screaming because his mom won't buy him a toy? That's what they're doing, getting on freeways, blocking traffic of people who had nothing to do with anything, people who are probably trying to get to the hospital to see their father before he dies. Come on, man. These are tantrums. Nobody feels sorry for that kid.
No, and I'm going to tell you, like, here's another example, right? And I talked about this before. When we think about what happened in the 60s, we talk about the 60s a lot when it comes to civil rights protests and everything else. When you think about what happened with the 60s and the nonviolent protest that Dr. King was spearheading, most of part of the reason why a lot of shit changed down south was because folks didn't know about it, right? Yeah. Folks didn't know about it. Up north, it was like, man, they had no clue what the hell was going on. It wasn't until you started seeing black people being hosed down, black people being bitten up and eaten up by dogs, black people being beaten by the police, those who were supposed to be charged to protect them. You didn't see a lot until that stuff went national, until that stuff went global. America was pretty much cool with having this little secret down south until everybody fucking knew about it. Then all of a sudden, okay, we got to start changing shit up because people are calling us out on our bullshit.
Yeah, but that was a different time. Like, what's going on now that the world don't know about? What are black people in 2015? Are we saying that we have it the same as our grandparents?
I'm not saying that we have it the same as our grandparents, but what I am saying is that if folks aren't aware, then this is another way of making them aware and putting pressure on the United States, who holds itself up as a moral authority in the world, to do something about what the hell they got going on here.
Yeah, but
that same tactic is being used now. And to say that it wasn't effective, and you live in a point where you say shit has changed now, is what's so funny to me. That's funny.
Hold on. I still don't know what these women want.
It's better than what it was in the 60s.
I still don't know what they want. What do these women want? I still don't get it. What do they want? First, like I said, first it was trans rights for trans people. Then it was, just go look at the Netroots. She started listing all kind of shit. She wanted indigenous land and all this. I'm like, what do you want? And then it was police brutality. Then it was like, what do they want?
You know
that's what the politicians are trying to ask them.
Do you know how easy it is to find out what they want?
What, go to their website?
Exactly. And that's one of the things that's so funny, is that we're so fucking lazy with all this goddamn technology we got in front of us, right? You got a cell phone, they got an internet connection on your house phone, at your house. If you really wanted to know what it is they wanted, you can just get it on your computer or your cell phone or whatever. Look this shit up.
Give a fuck what they want is what I'm trying to tell you. Nobody gives a shit.
Hold on. The thing of it is, though, is that those of the community who they're fighting for, who say, well, they don't represent me. They don't even know what it is. Like that's the thing that's disheartening, is that like, well, I won't even take the time to look into what the hell they're talking about because I don't necessarily they're not doing it in a way that I would like for them to do it. It's not pretty.
No, listen, I'm going by their representatives, what they've said. I watched them. Okay, what do you want? Okay, I'm interested. All over the motherfucking place. Then the next one, I'm like, hold on, are these women even with the same crew? Because they asking for some different shit. I just saw an article where they trying to shut down a state fair because black people can't sell t-shirts. That's fucking ridiculous. Are you kidding me? See, I'm of the mind, do it yourself. I'm not gonna sit out here and pick it outside your business because you won't hire me. I'm gonna create competition for you. This is what this organization should be doing. We should be organizing ourselves. Like, detach yourself. Listen, the Jews did it. The Jews, instead of marching and picketing, at some point in history, they say, you know what? Ain't nobody fucking with us. So we got to practice group economics. We got to start marrying within the community. We just got to keep to our own. If they won't give us jobs, we'll give each other jobs. They won't give us anywhere to live. We'll buy the building and take care of our own. We have the power to do the same thing. But as long as we want to ignore black on black crime, which is the biggest issue within, and I don't care about what white people do. Listen, I don't care what white people do. I don't care what Latinos do. That's nothing to do with me. Okay, I own a business. All right, I own 2 businesses. Okay, I need to build my studio. Do you think I'm gonna put it in the hood? Why the fuck would I do that? Even though I could put it there and employ my own people from the hood, why would I do that when they gonna break in my shit because black on black crime don't matter, and break in my shit and put me out of business? You know what I'm saying? And then let me ask any black people this that are listening, right? When you have children, are you moving to the hood? Do you desire to move to the black part of town? Be honest. Be honest. Because I don't. And I'm not trying to, because nobody gives a shit about black on black crime because it's not a big issue. It pales in comparison to the 400 plus black people who've been killed in the last 3 years by police, a lot of which who were armed, a lot of which, all of these. I mean, we're pushing this narrative that black men are walking down the street and white cops are running around like night riders and just shooting black people because they're black. A lot of these are motherfuckers who did some stupid shit. And understand this, a lot of times when the cops come to our neighborhoods, because we ignoring black on black crime. Black on black crime don't. So Ray does some bullshit. Cops respond. Nobody's talking to the cops. So the cops start putting all the boys at risk. You know what I'm saying? Because we ignore Ray. We need to focus on white people first, because we hold white people at this barometer. Well, white people do it too, because if they do it, then we must fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, since when do white people become the barometer of how we're supposed to be living our lives? This is the problem. They need to bring that energy home.
Okay. Here's the thing, and like I told you before, it isn't necessarily about what white folks are doing. When I talk about the false narrative that is black on black crime, I'm talking about the fact that anytime you talk systemic issues, anytime you bring up systemic issues or institutional issues directly affect black folks in a negative way, the first thing that is always brought up is black on black crime, right? So when you talk about putting your studio in a black part of town, does that what you should be referring to is whether or not that part of town is poor or not, right? Because economic availability, economic viability is very important. You mean to tell me? Hold on. If you go to any black community of wealth, of means, are you telling me that you're gonna run into a shit ton of crime simply because it's black folks there?
No, because you're dealing with a different type of black folks there.
You're running into crime in economically depressed areas.
Hold on. It's a chicken or egg argument. Is it economically poor because ain't nobody fucking with that side of town? Like, come on.
Running into crime in economic areas. Any place where there's any place, you tell me any place you want. Any place you want. If they have a high crime rate, I bet you there's a bunch of poor motherfuckers there.
Okay, because they go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? A ghetto is only a ghetto because of the people who live there and the mindset of the people who live there. That's it. An area itself is not a ghetto. It's the people who live there, right? And this is the type of thinking that we need to change. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. We have been fighting this same fight, making these same complaints since the 60s. The white system has proven to you time and time again, we're not fucking with you. We don't care what you do, how many organized little bullshit you guys do. We're not changing shit for you, right? So instead of begging for respect, I say we take it. I say that first of all, but we can't take respect until we fix. Okay, if you have a raggedy ass car, faded paint job, dent, what sense does it make to start fighting for some brand new rims? It makes no goddamn sense. Fix your car first, then try to get those rims. Yeah, I know it seems like a silly analogy, but it's just real. Let's fix home first before let's fix our house before we start complaining about the neighborhood. That's all I'm saying. You know, that energy needs to come home. All right. I don't care what white people do. I don't care about any of that. We have the economic power behind us. African Americans, the most culturally influential people on the planet. We have the resources to do what we need to do. It's just that we keep relying on Bernie Sanders. We keep relying on the president. But we want to keep this democratic liberal mind state, right? If the Democratic Party worked for you, then why at the end of the term, 2 terms of a black Democratic president are you just now screaming Black Lives Matter? That should let you know that the Democratic Party does not give a fuck about you. So complaining to them and begging them is not going to change anything. Come home, okay. Let's make a voter block, and let's start creating politicians instead of excuses.
You know what's interesting is that you hear a lot, and you kind of echoed a bit of their sentiment of Black folks not necessarily focusing on the community that they're in when it comes to Black on Black crime and what have you. I can give you a few examples of, like, say for instance, here in Detroit, we have a group called the Detroit 300, to a vigilante group, because they were going after motherfuckers in the hood doing stupid shit.
And
right?
I commend them. I commend them for that.
You probably right. You also had Father Michael Flieger in Chicago, a priest at St. Sabina Church on the south side of Chicago, who repeatedly and forcefully all the time speaks on the violence that's going on in Chicago. You also had Chance the Rapper in Chicago, who, as a matter of fact, had he had a Stop the Violence initiative, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was pointing folks to community events around the city, safe events where folks can go to have a good time, right? This is written about in I think it was MTV.com. I think MTV.com had this article talking about Chance the Rapper having this nonviolence community initiative, right? You know how many times that story was posted? You know how many people talked about that? None. Oh, nobody talked about it. Yeah. Hold on. Nobody talked about it. Okay. And this goes part into my point. When we talk about folks don't care about Black on Black crime, when we talk about folks don't care about Black on Black crime, there have been many marches, there have been many protests, there have been a whole lot of different demonstrations that happen all the time in the hood. Okay. Do they necessarily get the amount of media coverage that the other shit gets? No. But that's not to say that folks in the community don't give a damn about what's going on in the community. And that doesn't say, and it kind of points to the fact that folks would want that narrative to be repeated over and over again. That they don't care, so why the fuck should we?
Exactly. We wait for George Soros to pay for some shit, and we only focus on that, right? Why isn't George Soros funding? Well, hold on. And then you just said people been marching and protest. Marching and protesting does not work. So if it doesn't work, it has not worked historically for us. Why would it work on Black crime? You dig what I'm saying? So yes, of course, that's just not going to work. There's not going to be any results. No one's going to focus on it because nobody knows nothing's going to come out of it. But what I'm saying is, why isn't George Soros funding those protests? Why is he funding this one? You think George Soros just gives a shit about you because he loves Black people? Hell no. First of all, you don't get that rich by being an angel. You don't get that rich by being an angel. Right? George Soros goes around the world pushing democracy because democracy makes people subjects of socialism, right? And just like what we are here, right? You're either a capitalist or a subject of socialism. There's no in between. They're cutting the middle class out really quick. right? Why doesn't George? We should be upset about George Soros not allocating funds for that. Why is he not allocating funds for black business? Why is he not allocating funds for these neighborhoods? He's allocating funds for these women to sabotage every other Democratic front runner so they can put Hillary in there, because Hillary is the Democratic angel, the Democratic darling who's going to continue to keep you on the plantation.
Okay. You my brother. And this is funny because we talked about sources earlier in this debate. We talked about sources. And we talked about, and we know who Breitbart is. We know Breitbart has a conservative slant. We know Breitbart. This is the same Breitbart.com who trumpeted stories about
Breitbart. I've never even heard of it.
Okay, you should look Breitbart up because they were responsible for the Shaun King thing. But when we talk about sources, even with this George Soros shit, this matter is being funded by George Soros to somehow elect Hillary Clinton and to sabotage other Democratic contenders.
Yeah.
That story was fed out into the atmosphere by the Washington Times. Now, the Washington Times is the print equivalent of Fox News. All one has to do is go to their website, peruse the stories there, listen to the stories there. As a matter of fact, the Washington Times has their online opinion editor is Monica Crowley, who also is a political and foreign affairs analyst for Fox News, right? Andrew Napolitan at the Washington Times, who also simultaneously works as a legal analyst for Fox News. This is the same Washington Times that continues to peddle the Benghazi narrative of President Obama. And it was funny. They also had in a story about Black Lives Matter. They actually had an ad in the middle of the story telling you what 21 handguns is for home self-defense was. We talk about sources like that's the one thing, and we've had this discussion before. We were talking about that whole Michael Jordan investing in prisons and stuff like that, and folks are running with that, never even knowing where the fuck that shit came from. This whole George Soros is funding the Black Lives Matter movement came from the Washington Times.
No, it did not.
Yes, they did.
He admittedly funds the Black Lives Matter. Well, hold on. Is that what you were thinking? That's what I can do. You can go. You probably go to his Wikipedia page and see that he funds that. Right? Did he not fund Obama? Did he not fund Clinton the first time?
Wikipedia.
No, I'm saying you could probably get it from Wikipedia. You could probably get that from Wikipedia.
No, I'm saying you're going to reference Wikipedia here, and we're talking about sources. No, hold on. The point I'm making here is we're talking about the legitimacy of sources.
Spann, if this would have been if this had been a story against Bill Cosby and it came from fucking Satan himself, you would have posted it because it fits your narrative. Come on.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't have. And
come on.
Come on, man. You would even say that to me. That you think that I would do that.
Okay, first of all, I would do that. Breitbart is. I don't know what the fuck that is. I've never even seen it. I don't read a lot of articles that I see posted online because a lot of them be onion and funny shit, right? But George Soros is clearly funding the Black Lives Matter movement. There's even no question about that. There's no question about that, right? Now, as far as him funding Hillary Clinton, I don't know. But seeing that he funded Obama, he funded action against Bush, and he funded Clinton the first time, I can only assume that he's all about democracy. And everywhere he spends money around the world, whether it's South Africa, Russia, whatever, nothing gets better. It's still fucked up, but he's in control. Him and his people are in control of that. Because that's what you do. You want your slaves to be faithful. You feed them a little bit. You look like a star. Somebody that rich don't do shit unless there's some kind of benefit to them. Trust me. And he is funding the Black Lives Matter movement.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing, and I've said this a few times, man. It's an interesting thing when we sometimes confuse. We can sometimes confuse ourselves for being almost or being truth tellers or being revolutionary, and we're espousing the exact same things that those who don't give a fuck about you espouse to you, right? So you like it. it's funny how that works, because again, like when I talk about the sources, when I talk about sources, and we know where this source came from with the George Soros story. It just goes right into that whole thing of a conservative news organization feeding that story out. A lot of folks, especially like it's a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who really believe that. Who believe that Hillary Clinton and George Soros are funding this Black Lives Matter movement to harass Bernie Sanders. It's a lot of their supporters who believe that, but they don't even know where that came from. That came from the Washington Times.
That's the only place it was ever in, right? George
No,
Soros.
they would. Hold on. Exactly. This is what I mean. When we talk about sources, I'm talking about, like, say, for instance, even with the exclusive that Breitbart used with Sean King. Breitbart was the first ones who broke that. Breitbart was the ones who put that out in the atmosphere, and then mainstream kind of picked up on it to the point where he had to talk about it. The same thing with this. The Washington Times put that out there, and mainstream picked up on it, and everybody started talking about it, and then it latched on. Some people latched onto it, especially Bernie Sanders supporters who wanted to believe, don't like Hillary for one thing, and they don't appreciate Black Lives Matter protesters actually asking Bernie Sanders or demanding that Bernie Sanders address issues concerning Black folks.
Okay, so are you saying right now that George Soros is not the main funder of Black Lives Matter movement?
I am saying that George Soros is not the main funder of Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay, so who is?
I don't know.
Somebody's flying these heffalumps around to just make noise. Who's doing it?
Well, because this isn't a centralized movement, you have to understand too, this isn't a centralized movement. There are chapters of Black Lives Matter popping up all over the country.
Yeah,
right?
but no. I've been seeing some of the same faces.
Hold on. Some of these people don't have to fly anywhere. So if Bernie Sanders, say for instance, if Bernie Sanders comes to Detroit, and I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter, I'm a part of the organization and everything else, I can go, or someone or a woman, whoever, I can go to a Bernie Sanders event and advocate for Black Lives Matter. It doesn't take for somebody to come fly in for them to demonstrate against Bernie Sanders. Wherever he goes, there may be Black Lives Matter supporters there, and they're able to demonstrate against them. And they also have said that they aren't necessarily, it isn't just about Bernie Sanders, that they're going to hold all political candidates in the presidential race accountable, and that they'll get to them when they can get to them. Just so happens that Bernie Sanders has been catching the brunt of the last few weeks.
Of course he has. They need to. First of all, Bernie Sanders ain't a Democrat. He's an independent posing as a Democrat. Okay, independent. So who Democrats want to get him off of that platform because he's going to call attention to the 1%. He's going to call attention to the corporations, the ones who uphold the Democratic Party and keep everyone else in slavery. That's all that is. So they have to get him out of the way first. Because they know Trump ain't going to win. Trump is just doing this shit for marketing.
Like this. If he wanted to, he could still run as an independent, and he doesn't need the Democratic Party to do shit.
No, you don't become a president. So that's independent. You do not become president as independent.
Hold on. He could run as a third party candidate. He doesn't have to be a Democratic candidate for the presidency of the United States. He doesn't have to be a Republican candidate for the United States.
Okay, no, he does not. Name one independent president in American history. One Green Party president in American history.
Can't name one.
That's right, because you got to be red or blue, and he knew that. He said, I'm going to get on the blue because that's the closest thing to the group that I'm going to be speaking to. The only thing is he will break the paradigm of what the Democratic Party historically, like, okay, I see black people was getting mad because the media fed them, socially engineered them into being mad about the Confederate flag. So this flag that's been there forever, now they're mad and they want to rip it down, right? That's the Democratic flag. That flag represents the Democratic Party, their own party. But okay, they're only obsessed with history when it fits their current narrative. But what am I? Who am I? I'm a coon.
And come on, bro.
I'm not talking to you. Hold on. I had a brother call me a coon. Hold on, let me tell you. This brother hit me up. Antoine Spann gonna kill you, coon. Right? Now I was gonna get mad at him. I don't get me. People debate me all the time. Because I got some pretty, flagrant, some flagrant views. So I looked at the dude. I said, okay, this is a brother. He's trying to fight the good fight. He wear one of them yarn hats and shit, and got the, the whole, like, he looked like he be drumming on Fridays, and but he had a radio show. Y'all say, okay, so this dude, at least he has a platform. He ain't just somebody on Facebook talking shit. I don't know how many people listen to his show, but at least he's trying. So for that, and plus he had Malcolm X on his main thing. So I was like, all right, cool. I told him I was gonna give him a shout out. Mr. Jerry is his name. This is a shout out to you, brother. You don't have to agree with me, man, but you ain't got to call me names, my nigga. Like, come on, man. Because you don't want to roast with me. Roasting is what I do, But anyway, I just had to throw that in. Go ahead, continue.
But getting back to that whole Confederate flag movement, and you mentioning that, and it used to be part of the Democratic Party in the South. Was heavily Democratic, and that was the Democratic Party was the party of slavery. They wanted to fight to keep it, right? We can acknowledge that history. We can acknowledge that, right? Mm-hmm. But what also gets lost in the sauce is the fact that a lot of the people who are trying to hold on to the Confederate flag and what it means and what it represents aren't necessarily carrying that Democratic banner anymore. They're wearing Republican. They're rocking with that Republican elephant as their party banner. You know what I'm saying? Like you had that Southern strategy going on with what was it, Atwater back in I want to say the 70s and 80s. Like a lot of shit switched up where you got Republicans who are now acting like. Go ahead.
You know why? Because the elite have always split everything by color. That's what they do. That's how they keep us separated. Now, if you go back into history, when the slaves, or not even, they weren't even slaves at that point, they were indentured servants, black and Irish and, poor English. When they would have an issue on the plantation, they would fight together, right? They'd be having Our Lives Matter movements together, right? And it was the elite that said, oh shit, we got to break this shit up. So they're the ones that split, the whole. That's when racism was really invented in American history, right? Because of that. Now we're seeing the same thing happen today. This whole Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality thing. This is not a black issue. This is a civil rights issue. Because you think Black Lives Matter is going to go in there? They're going to get whoever becomes president to turn some knobs, and they're going to change police policy. You think that's only going to work for black people? That's gonna be for everyone. We ain't gonna beat black people up no more. We still gonna beat poor white people and Latinos up. But black people we can't touch. No, that's a civil rights.
That's not what they're asking, though, bro.
That is what they're asking.
That's not what they're asking. So when they talk, what are they asking? Okay, when they're talking about Black Lives Mattering, especially in regards to the state, we are being disproportionately killed at the hands of the state. Right. So all they're asking for, all they're demanding, right, is equal protection under the laws, regardless of race. Right. The whole thing about Black Lives Matter, and I know like it always get kind of conflated, and folks want to argue like the semantics of it, like, well, it only matters when black people are getting killed by white folks, and what about all lives matter and everything else, right? That always gets conflated, but at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is they're saying that Black Lives Matter is because the state isn't necessarily recognizing that when people are being gunned down by law enforcement, sometimes unlawfully, right? Sometimes unlawfully.
Only sometimes. Sometimes motherfuckers deserve to get shot.
But even in the instances where they were killed unlawfully, where a man is being choked out for selling cigarettes, where a kid is or a dude is being shot in his hip after the police officer asks him to produce some ID, shit like that, where these officers are walking away, not even being indicted, not even and going on administrative leave and coming back to their fucking job to be able to do it again.
Okay,
right?
But is this only happening to black people? I'm lost because I just seen a video of some cops beating a white dude to death. He was screaming for his father.
Nobody was saying that it was only happening to white people.
It's not called Gray Lives Matter. It's called Black Lives Matter.
It's happening disproportionately to black people, where the state is executing black people unlawfully and walking away with no repercussions whatsoever.
Yeah, but okay, there was a black cop that just shot a white kid in Salt Lake City. They didn't even bring up charges against him. And the kid was unarmed. White kid.
Hold on. Guess who was protesting for that too? Black Lives Matter protesters.
He wasn't black though. So what the fuck there was a cop?
Black Lives Matter protesters were also demonstrating on behalf of him too. So it's not necessarily about Black Lives Matter.
So it's civil rights, right? It's civil rights. It's not black rights. They ain't fighting for nothing black. If it's Coke, hold on. If it's Coca-Cola, if it's a Coca-Cola commercial, hey, well, we're gonna advertise Pepsi too. Fuck out of here. It's Black Lives Matter, right? So what are we talking about here? Are they fighting for just laws to change for black people, or they're trying to change law enforcement, period? Because if they're trying to change law enforcement and the way they conduct themselves, that is civil rights.
They're trying to change law enforcement so that it is equitable across the board.
So kill us. Unfortunately, kill white people.
Hold on. Unfortunately, black folks are disproportionately mistreated by law enforcement. So Black Lives Matter action to say, listen, you need to treat us just as well as you treat every call to is a call to level everything across the board. Because at the end of the day, we're being disproportionately incarcerated. We're being disproportionately killed at the hands of the state.
Okay.
That's what's going on.
Okay.
Disproportionately. We ran the numbers down. We've already run the numbers down as to how many white folks are actually are responsible for crime and everything else, but find themselves free to walk the world.
Hold on.
Nothing fucking happened.
Okay.
We've already talked about it.
This white kid just shot up a church, right? But since the media is not telling black people to be mad about it, they just forgot about it because black people respond to the media. So this white kid shot up a church. And when he was arrested, black people, how come they didn't shoot him? They should have shot him, right? But did you see the arrest video? He got out of the car, put his hands behind his back, and went straight to the car. There was no reason to fight. He didn't have to get tased. Nothing. He just said, okay, you got me, right? He shot up a church. But he got caught and said, fuck it, y'all got me. You don't think that if he would have fought, fuck you, and started, he might have gotten shot or tased or beaten? Is it possible? Even though he was white, or you think they'd have been like, oh, he's white, so everybody chill out, just let him run. Okay, hey guy, we're just gonna arrest you. Come on, they would have tased his ass and shot him like they shoot anyone else. Because I see videos of brothers all the time. Fuck you, I ain't do nothing. I'm like, nigga, just listen, if you didn't do nothing, just say, okay, listen, you know, whatever this is, you know. But cats be committing crimes, right? They commit the crime. They did a crime so that the cops had a reason to be there, but then they want to fight against the cops, right? Then a fight ensues. Then, you know, if a cop ain't been around black people a whole lot, and all they watch is the rap videos and all that shit that black people like to praise, they might be scared of this dude. Now, I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just trying to bring some logic to why it's probably happening a little bit more so that way than the other way. Now, maybe another thing that the Black Lives Matter people should be fighting for is to get more black cops on the force, black people from these neighborhoods, so that they can identify and say, okay, no, this dude looks like my uncle. He's cool. Hey, listen, bro, you might want to chill. You know, like listen.
Here's the thing.
Every time a cop shoots a black person, it's not because the cop hates black people and he wants to shoot them. Sometimes black people get out of line. Sometimes white people get out of line. They get shot, right? I mean, what you know?
Here's the thing.
What does this Black Lives Movement matter? What is it about?
And we can talk about, you know, kind of how anecdotally shit changes a lot, right? Amir Rice is 12 in a park. Police roll up on him because people said he was playing with a BB gun. Immediately, right? We've also seen, because we live in an era of youth, right? We live in an area, mostly white dudes walking up the street with fucking AR-15s, unbothered.
Okay.
The police walk out, the police come out, and he talks to this man reasonably. He's walk out, he's like, well, you know, I've been and shit like that. and they talk to this dude immediately out of the fucking car and gunning his ass down. And he has an AR-15, a real one, not a BB gun. A 12-year-old kid shot Cleveland for having a BB gun in the park. A white man walking around the school, 15 strapped to his back, and the police talk to this dude. And it happened video. You can go to him right now, and you can see this shit happening all the time. You also can find out those where a black guy will also be open carrying, and they get white dude. They're talking to the white guy about the black guy with the AR-15, and the white guy has an AR-15. Have AR-15s. Black guys on the ground splayed the fuck out while they're talking to this white dude. So the attitude that these police have about policing black people is the issue.
Okay.
Talking about Black Lives Matter is that systemic issue of the state killing needlessly black folks.
We were talking about respectability. Okay, you're breaking up on my end. I hope the listeners aren't hearing it like this.
You hear me?
Yeah, are we good?
Can hear you. Good.
You can hear me? Okay, because you were breaking up on my end. I hope the listeners don't hear it like that. How much, I'm just going to ask you a question. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
How much do you think this perception of black people, this fear of black people, has to do with hip hop and sites like World Star Hip Hop and Media Takeout? Because we're talking about respectability, politics. How much do you think? Because listen, all of these things represent you, right? Hyenas. Have you ever seen a hyena in real life?
No,
I haven't. I've never seen one. But if I did, I'm gonna jump in a tree, because everyone I see on TV is just eats shit, right? So, and now this one could be domesticated and whatever. He just might have wanted to be petted, but I'm not taking that chance, because everything I see on TV about this thing is this vicious, right? So, do you think that the imagery that we applaud, that we put out there, and we say, "Oh, just entertainment. It's just entertainment." Do you think that that has anything to do with the reason why people are afraid of us? Again, I'm not blaming, or I'm not justifying bullshit, but I'm just saying that marketing is a thing. We know that. The way people perceive you is the way that, you know, the image is put out there. This is why a lot of black people to this day worship white people, because they know they live in an all black area, and the only thing good about life they see is on television with white people. Right. And that's what sets me apart. Let me just say that for all these motherfuckers that's calling me a coon. The difference between me and a lot of these motherfuckers is I grew up very integrated. So I know that white people are not superior. I know that white people are not better than me. I'm not afraid of white people. And you know, so I can compete with them. See, a lot of these cats that I see that be on Facebook talking all this, you know, this red, black, and green Africa bullshit from the comfort of Texas. They live in predominantly black areas, and their only access to white people is what they see on TV. So there's a bit of a jealousy there. It's like I wish I was like them, but fuck them. You know, it's kind of like that girl who won't date you, so you just like, fuck her, she ugly anyway. It's that whole thing. See, I don't suffer from that. You know what I mean? I live everything I talk, I live. I am a black business owner. I only have black clients. I can only employ black and Latino people. But I'm just one man. I can only do what I can do. You know, but how much of this fear do you think is attributable to the images that we applaud and we allow to represent us? Oh shit, did we freeze up? Oh shit.
But also, can you hear me?
Hold on. You're frozen on my screen. So you can hear me good though, right?
I hear you perfectly.
Okay, now, okay, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe it plays a part. I definitely believe that it plays a part when you're constantly bombarded with certain images and you have no experience with a certain segment of people, that it can play a part. But at the same time, I also know that they don't necessarily need that to not fuck with you. They haven't needed it. Before there was hip hop, they had a reason to not fuck with you. this is, I mean, you think about what happened with Rosewood. You think about what happened with Black Wall Street, where, you know, there was this idea that black men were savages and they were out for white women and everything else. And white men, to a large degree, used black violence against the white woman as their reason for coming down so hard on the black community. It didn't necessarily, this has been going on long before there was ever a such thing as hip hop, long before there was ever such thing as world star hip hop, any of these things.
Okay.
They've always had this. They've always used the excuse of the black brute in order to justify what to us. They've always do it.
And I think that's what's problematic is they created these stereotypes, and now we happily embrace them and we will defend it. Well, he making money though. You just a hater. He making money. We embrace these images. We upload videos to enforce these images, not just in entertainment, but in reality. And then we expect different results. We plant popcorn and expect roses to grow. And this is this is problematic. Now, the Jews, I'm glad you brought up the history of they never needed a reason, whatever, right? You can go back in history, in American history, and you can see signs that say no blacks, no Jews, no dogs. Right? You've seen that in American history. We know what the Jews went through in Europe, and we know about the history, the long history of what Jews, you know, we're not going to argue the Ashkenazi and the original black Jews. We're not going to do that. But the Jewish faith, we've seen what they went through in history, right? How come, you ever watch that show Cops? How come you have never seen a Jew on Cops? You see poor white people, you see poor Latinos, black people all day. How come we've never seen one single Jew? You think that there's never no cops to an affluent neighborhood? The cops, you know, some guy don't beat his wife. How come you don't see those videos? It's always in the trailer park or in the ghetto or in the hood. How come we don't see those videos? And I'm going to tell you why. No, go ahead. Let me hear your rebuttal. Go ahead.
Well, I can't tell you the last time I watched Cops. But one of the interesting things about a lot of Jews were that you have a lot of Jews who were passing for white. So even in an instance where you're watching an episode of Cops, you can't say you didn't see a Jew on Cops being arrested because he may have just been a Jew passing for white. And see, there was I forget what the name of that movie was, where the guy was going to a school and it was like a private school. He was passing for white. Yeah, School Ties. He was passing for white, and he was found out that he was a Jew. A lot of Jewish people at the time where it was a thing. It was really a thing where like the discrimination against Jewish people was as like thick, where they took the opportunity to pass for white to kind of bypass a lot of the things that they were dealing with as Jewish people. The same way a lot of black people who could pass for white in order to bypass a lot of the discrimination that they were dealing with if they was found out. So to say that like Jewish folks weren't dealing with it, or they, you know, folks, I mean, well, a lot of Jewish people have benefited simply because of the fact that they could pass for white.
Okay, but we're talking about cops here. So okay, even though there's some Jews passing as poor white trash?
Not poor white trash. I'm saying that there are Jewish people who are poor who also are on cops getting arrested.
You sure? Because if I'm a Jew and I'm part of a community that's empowered, I'm like, hey, I'm a Jew. You better get the fucking camera out of my face.
Well, white people are part of a crew that are part of a group that's empowered, but they were also on cops.
What white people? So you talking about Irish? You talking about English? Like,
no. To say that just because they're Jewish doesn't necessarily mean that they're empowered. There are poor people in every group of folks.
Really?
Everybody.
Please show me one poor Jew today. Unless they're passing so they can be poor.
Do I have to name folks, man? Folks that nobody knows. Folks that nobody knows because they're Jewish and they have. Come on, man. That's not even reason.
Let me tell you something. I used to be in the industry. Trust me, ain't no Jew about to pass as no poor white person. They're very proud of who they are.
I'm not saying that they're passing for poor white people. What I'm saying is that you have Jewish people who aren't bankrolling in the way that the stereotype of the Jewish people are, financially well off, and the stereotype that the Jewish people are, who are dealing with shit on the day-to-day the same way you and I are dealing with shit on the day-to-day. They just so happen to have the added benefit that they look white.
Okay.
And that's it.
How do we explain the absence of Asian police beatings and shootings? They don't look white.
They don't look white.
No, they have light skin, but they certainly cannot pass for Caucasian. So how do we explain their absence from all of this?
Outside of them basically kind of keeping to themselves?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like Jews?
I don't know.
Yeah. So what I'm using these examples of communities that are empowered, right? I'm pretty sure the cops show up at a lot of Jewish places. Some Jews dudes beating his wife or something. I'm pretty sure they show up with them cameras and everything. He's like, get that fucking camera out of my face. I'll shove it up your ass. And the producers looking at, yeah, man, he will shove that camera up our ass because that community don't fuck around. So let's go ahead and edit that out, right? Black people, I don't care what we got to stop going back to the past. Say, well, it's kind of like when Mike Brown got shot after he physically robbed a store, right? We compare that to Emmett Till. I seen a drawing showing him and Emmett Till, because when you're dealing with a lot of black people, they just see black and white, right? A lot of ignorant people, not just black people, it's poor white people and ignorant black people. They just see black and white. He was black, so it don't matter what he did. The cops didn't have to shoot him, But even if the forensics and everything else shows that the cop was telling the truth, I'm just saying, I'm not saying any names. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. Sandra Bland. No one even considered the fact that she just may have killed herself. Maybe she felt let down by her people, and maybe she was upset with herself because she couldn't get that job or whatever, and she really killed herself. Now, those officers should be held accountable because there shouldn't have been nothing in that cell for her to hang herself in the first place. But do I think that they went in there because she was some YouTuber who had 150 views on some videos? They went in there and set her up so they could hang her? Because I've heard that, right? We got to be careful when we start drawing these lines, when we make everything black and white, right? Unless we're going to empower ourselves, just like the Jews, right? We can't pretend. We can't pretend to be nothing. Oh, no, we can pretend to be West Indians who come to America and do better than most people, including white people, right? They're just as dark or darker than a lot of African Americans, but they come here and they do okay because of their cultural standards. They come here and they look at us and they say, you guys are still complaining about some shit from 200 years ago? Are you out of your fucking mind? You better make it happen. You're from here. You just won't take advantage of this because you're too busy begging them for some bullshit that they've proven they're not going to give you. Right?
Still one of them becomes a victim of the exact same thing.
Okay. But
Amadou Diallo was an immigrant also.
Okay.
Who got shot 40 fucking times by the New York Police Department.
Oh no!
So until they have to deal with the same thing, then it's like, okay, that's another thing too. Where even if they come over here and they have a certain set or they have a certain mindset in how they look at black people here, at the same time, America here looks at them the same way that they look at all of us. So when it doesn't necessarily hit them. I'm sorry.
Who you said America looks at them? Who is America?
Just the American power structure as it's set up, right? The same way that they look, white people, the same way that they look at us, they'll look at this West Indian guy the same way that they look at us. So even though he's thinking in his head, nah, man, they on some bullshit. I'm not like those other Negroes. I'm not like those other black people, until he becomes a victim of the exact same shit that these other black people have been talking about from the very beginning, who've been trying to tell him like, this is what's going on here. So it's not as if it can't happen to them, and it's not as if they're not dealing with it also. They don't necessarily see themselves as part of this community because they weren't from here, but they're going to also deal with some of the same issues simply because they look like everybody who's from here.
Okay. But what I'm trying to say is, let's take somebody like Jay-Z and Beyonce. You think if they get pulled over, they risk the same issues that you and I would face if we were in the car with our girls?
Nah.
Why not? They're black. Why not? They're black. They're niggers. They should be shot, right? Why not?
They have resources.
Exactly. Right? Now imagine if our entire, the one thing about Jews, I'm gonna keep bringing Jews up, is we just assume they all have resources, because even if they don't have it, they can get it, because everybody knows how tight knit that community is, right? Mm-hmm. Did you see the movie Straight Outta Compton?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there is a scene in there. You know the song "No Vaseline" by Ice Cube, where he says, "You let a Jew break up my crew," right? Now Jerry Heller, a Jew, who had been funding and had been supporting niggas with attitude, songs about killing niggas and bitches and hoes and all this shit. He had no problem with that. But as soon as that line came out, suddenly he wanted to go to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Like, oh, that's racism. How could he say that about Jews? Right? And we've seen this quite a few times. They'll fund our demeaning each other, but when it comes to them, they don't play that. Now imagine if us as a community came like that. If we came with that much power, we're like, listen, we will shut you down with our sheer numbers alone, with our dollar, not with our screaming women with purple hair and fucking don't nobody bring me bad news looking motherfuckers. We are going to shut you down with our dollar. That's when shit changes. Listen, okay, yes, the protests and all that shit in the 60s brought attention to an issue because television was new and people around the world could see it. But nothing changed until they did that boycott where they affected the dollar of the city. You start fucking with their dollars, they will make the changes you need. Right? The reason why Beyonce and Jay-Z won't have the same issues as us is because they have dollars behind them. Right? So if our community was viewed as such that no, these people stick together. If this dude don't have it, somebody, his uncle, somebody's got it. And they I'll lose my job. I'll fucking, they'll get this politician kicked out and this shit will come from up on high. If they viewed us like that, we would have power, not sympathy, because that's all we're asking for right now with all this begging, like, please, white people, please. So.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that, though, because there's nothing stopping us from already in the forefront and supporting that, right? But we're too busy fighting on how they're going about doing what they do, right? There's nothing stopping us as a community, as Black people, right? Like right now, the largest movement, so to speak, for the advancement of Black people in America right now is the Black Lives Matter movement. Can we agree on that?
Largest meaning what? You mean the most viewed?
The most viewed, most. Everyone's talking about them right now, right?
I would say hip hop, but yeah, go ahead.
We could get behind that. Like there's nothing stopping us from getting behind that and supporting that movement and thrusting it and giving it resources in the way that is needed for that to happen. Everything you said could be put forth in that effort, right? But we don't do that, right? Even in you saying that if we put all our money together and we shut down this and we shut down that and we stop giving our money to this, that, and the other, there's nothing stopping us from doing that as a part of the Black Lives. A lot of folks have issues with, well, I don't know, they did this shit here, so I don't really want to fuck with that. Yeah. And they did this shit, I don't really want to fuck with that. But there's always something that for whatever reason stops folks from actively contributing. So we sit to the side and we point and we talk shit about she got purple hair and she was yelling to the top of her lungs about being reasonable and she could have did this and she could have did that, or he's effeminate and everything else, as opposed to putting our resources behind these people at the moment at the front lines of what we say we want.
Why would you do that?
Instead of doing that, we sit back and we just kind of point and we like, well, they could have did this, but I ain't really fucking with that, so fuck.
The thing is, I don't even think about the Black Lives Matter movement. They got them here in Vegas. I don't think about them. I'm doing what I do. I'm keeping it black. My son is caught up in the system right now, right? Me as a father, my job is to stand between him and the system. Systems catches with some bullshit. I said, okay, you get behind me. I'll pay your fines. I'll deal with this, and he'll deal with me. You're not dealing with my son, right? This is what we need to be focused on is fatherhood. Training these young women how to choose fathers to lay down with if they must have children. Once the children are here, how to raise and rear them. Our young teenagers in the hood, how to deal with cop altercations. What are your rights? Because a lot of them don't know their rights. They think they just have a right to be an asshole. Yeah, I just robbed that store, but don't touch me. I'm black. And they're gonna sue you. You know, it's ridiculous. We need education, financial education. We need a voter block. There's so many things we need as a community. We're not going to get it by begging a system that has historically proven again and again that they are not fucking with you, and they won't after this, and you will see it.
Here's the thing. We can do both. We can do this and that. We don't have to say, well, we can't do this, but we got to do that, and we got to do that, and we got to do that. But we can do all of those things. We don't necessarily have to put shit to the side and say that we can't accomplish that because, well, fuck that. We can't.
But how feasible is that? How feasible is that?
Hold on. Everybody plays their part in the movement, right? So say, for instance, you're talking about with your son and the system dealing with you as opposed to dealing with your son. That's part of you doing your part for them. But at the same time, you can also lend support wherever else needed, where you could, right? It's not to say that you can't protect your son and participate in this also. And that's the point that I'm making, is that you can do both. You can do both if you want to. But,
but if you don't believe in it, why would you do that? If I do not believe in loud cackling hens.
That's part of the problem. That's part of it. When we talk about you call them to acknowledge anything that those women said policy wise.
They didn't say shit.
Anything they did. Yes, they did. If you want to go back and we could the audio of what exactly they were talking.
I know, but who were they talking to?
About apology or what in that speech in Seattle.
Yeah, but who are they talking to?
We keep talking.
Yeah, I'm getting
shit that they were talking about. This action ever look like. It's part of the problem.
Okay. A lot of that broke up on my end. I was trying to hear it. I lost a big chunk of what you were saying, but I think I got the gist of it.
Okay.
The issue I'm having here is it seems like you're saying since these women were black and since they were passionate, you have to get behind them. Even if you don't agree with what they were doing, you can at least get behind them. I'm not going to get behind some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? That was bullshit. At the end of the day, they showed up at a white rally begging white people for something. I do not believe in that. I don't even deal with it. Now I'm not racist. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason for me to racist because I don't view white people as some kind of barometer of morality or whatever. I don't look for them to. I don't look to them for help. You know what I mean? But so I'm I don't agree with what they're doing. I agree with coming home. I agree with talking to my children, trying to fix what's here. You know, these women are trying to go and force their way into some bullshit that I didn't ask them to fight for me. I'm like, I don't need you to fight for me. Cops ain't my biggest problem. Are you kidding me? Cops are none of our biggest problems. You've just been socially engineered into believing that it is, right? Cops are not your biggest problems. Democrats are your biggest problem. The black church is your biggest problem. But you're not going to talk about that. Like you brought up Shaun King. Shaun King is the church, the black church. That's what he's pushing. I know that dude is Latino. I'm not Latino. I know that dude is biracial. He looks like my father. My father had the same issue. I had to get my father's death certificate changed because they said he was white because he was very light skinned like that, but at the same time, I'm not going to applaud him because he's pushing bullshit on people. I'm like, that's bullshit. Right now, I understand what you're saying. But what I'm getting from what you're saying is that since they're black, Who cares if they had purple hair and they made complete asses of themselves out there? You're supposed to support them because they're black. That's what I'm hearing.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm specifically talking about those sisters in Seattle.
Yeah.
Was the specifics of what they were saying in that speech. I have yet to hear a criticism of the specifics of what they were saying. The only thing I keep hearing about as far as criticism of these women is concerned are what they look like. And that's part of the issue. When that woman got up there, she talked about it was a juvenile facility they were talking about building in Seattle that disproportionately would house black kids. That was an issue in Seattle. She talked about the disproportionate rate at which black kids are suspended from school in that area. That is an issue there. When she talked about the gentrification of Seattle, where there's an area in Seattle where black folks, there used to be a point where this was the only place where black folks were able to live. And now they're pushing all of these people out of this part of the area and gentrifying gentrifying it to the point where black people can't even live there. They're pushing all of these people out. These were some of the things that she talked about.
Okay, but who was she talking to?
Bernie Sanders, who was talking about how progressive Seattle was, right? So if you're going to talk about how progressive Seattle is, one of the most progressive cities in America, yet you got all of these issues that they're dealing with where black people are being disproportionately suspended from school. Black kids are disproportionately being locked up. They're building a new prison for black kids right now. They're moving black people out of this particular part of the city. So if Bernie Sanders is going to get up there and talk about how well progressive that Seattle is, these issues, these check boxes of all of these issues that black people are dealing with in that in that city, and she's speaking directly to it, and everybody can only talk about what she's wearing and what her hair look like.
As they should.
That's part of the problem.
Why would she try to? Why would you bring such an important message looking like a buffoon? I have no idea. Why would you do that? You did what I'm saying?
You were breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Why would you bring such an important message looking like a buffoon? It makes no, there's a thing called marketing because you're talking to people. You must be marketed. You must be marketable. Any politician will tell you that. Any large corporation will tell you that. Why does it not apply to these women? Because they're black. They should be able to say what they want and do what they want. Because
I'm going to tell you this. It doesn't matter what they look like when they go, listen. When we think about this, and we talked about respectability politics, and we talked about Dr. King wearing a suit and tie, promoting sit-ins.
Here we go.
Hold on. Listen,
time machine,
time machine, my ass.
We're not living in the same America.
Hold on.
Different time. Hold on.
Promoting sit-ins wearing a fucking suit and tie didn't stop his ass from getting hit with a fucking brick. So whether or not she's wearing weave or not does not matter when it comes to the specifics of what the hell she's saying. No matter what the fuck she's got on, they're gonna their respect isn't going to be where you want it to be.
Is it possible to talk about issues now without relying on Jim Crow, the legacy of slavery, or Egypt, or white people? Who are these women talking to? Who are they talking to?
Talking about movements, especially
let me ask you
civil
this.
rights.
Were these women talking to the parents of the kids who were being suspended?
They were talking to those who had something to. They were talking to a politician who was coming there to get their vote or garner support to get their vote, and they were asking him specifically, what can you do to eradicate these issues? Now, as a politician, his job is to listen to these people and say, okay, well, I might be able to do something about this. I might be able to do something about that. I might be able to produce a program that can address this.
Okay. But you know what guarantees him doing that? Money and votes. A black voters block and money. Listen, Obama, black Democratic president. He ain't did shit for black people. Black people mad at him because they voted for him in record numbers. Yet they were the only group that did not go to him with money and a platform. Latinos went to him with money and a platform. Gays went to him with money and a platform. Women's rights groups went to him with money and a platform. This is why he addressed their issues before ours. We just said, well, we're black, so he should just do something for us. It's emotional welfare. And this is why I tell you that the Black Lives Matter movement is due to 40 years of single mother homes, which means emotional, irrational bullshit and dependency on the welfare state, getting something for absolutely nothing, and democratic liberal policy.
When you say that Barack Obama hasn't done anything for black people, brother, I just kind of you haven't been paying attention. That's just all that means. You haven't.
What did he do?
You haven't been paying attention.
Name it.
You have the
made us feel good about ourselves.
Can you let me get it out, bro?
Go. Go. I am anxious to hear this.
My Brother's Keeper initiative, the Obamacare initiative, the hold on. What do you mean? Really?
Only black people can get Obamacare?
Hold on. How many black people do you think do not have health insurance?
How many white people? How many Latinos? Are these issues? We're talking about black people.
Black people are disproportionately affected by these issues.
We are talking
disproportionately affected by these issues, bro.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Do you agree that there's more white people on welfare than black people?
I do.
Okay. So what makes you think that there's not more white people without health care than black people if they outnumber us by so much?
Just because white people are also going to be able to take it, this does not help black folks.
It's a civil right. It's not a black specific. It's not a black. I'm talking, what has he done black specific? Black specific. He won't even say your name. And I'm not saying he should, because you guys are not an empowered group, because everybody thinks I'm a coon and I'm crazy. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, am I going? It's my turn.
Your turn. You haven't been paying attention.
Okay. Let me ask you this, dude. How many people do you know personally has been shot by a cop? I know 2. How many you got?
I know one.
What? Hold on. You trying to tell me the pandemic of police shootings ain't affected you as a black man in America, in Detroit, and you from Chicago too? Come on, man. This is a pandemic, right? I know 2, and both of them. One was a bank robber. The other one was he was a gangbanger. He was always talking shit and fighting and shit, right? I know 2. Now, how many people do you know that's been shot by a black person? Gangbanger, blood, Crip, people's folk.
3.
Now I ask the same of the audience. How many people do y'all know that's been shot by a cop? How many of y'all know that's been shot by another black person? Am I deflecting? Is that what this is? This is deflection. A lesser issue, something we should not focus on.
What I will say is this: is that it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense to try to compare the actions of a criminal to the actions of someone who is charged and paid for to protect you. So if I'm going to talk about the actions of a criminal, I expect a criminal to do some shit to me. What I don't expect is the motherfucker that's paid by my tax dollars to protect me to shoot me also.
But you just told me that white people, not you, but the narrative is that white people are evil. You didn't say this, but I'm just saying the narrative generally is that white people are evil and they've been killing us anyway, right? For instance, ever seen Emmett Till back in the slave days? This has been the narrative. You can see a white cop coming, right? Anybody gets a little bit like, hold on, what the cops here for? Everybody gets a little bit shaky when they see the cops. They're like, hold on, what this motherfucker want with me, right? But here's what I'm trying to ask you. If this is such a pandemic, if this is where you told me I should be supporting these women, right? I should be supporting this movement, and this is their main thing. This is what started it all. We could talk about kids getting suspended in state fairs, not allowing them to sell T-shirts, all this other stupid shit they just making up as they go along. But it all started with Mike Brown. It all started with Trayvon Martin, then Mike Brown, then other police shootings that they engineered for you to focus on, because they just ignored any Latinos, any whites, or anybody else who's got shot by cops. Had nothing to do with nothing, right? And I'm just saying, if this is such a problem and black on black crime is not, how come you don't know anybody that's been shot by a cop, right? Most black people listening don't know anybody that's been shot by a cop, but everybody knows someone that has been affected by a black on black crime. You're talking about, we shouldn't have to worry about our own. While people calling me a coon and calling me an Uncle Tom, who's a bigger coon than someone that takes a black life? We're talking about black, meaning melanated, lives, meaning breathing. If we're talking about black lives mattering, how can you not focus on the bigger issue? Imagine if we were having a cancer meeting, right? Some woman stands up and says, yes, I have breast cancer. But then I tell her, no, I'm sorry, no, we're only concerned with prostate cancer here. It's all fucking cancer, and it's all killing people. So if we're talking about cancer, we're talking about cancer. If we're talking about black lives, we're talking about black lives. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's what I'm saying, bro. Excuse me. Here's what I'm saying. When they're talking about Black Lives Matter, they're not saying that black lives don't matter black on black, right?
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. No, they're not. But the issue, and here's where I've said this and I'll say it again. The issue is is how we are treated by the state when it comes to black people in the state and their interactions. That's what is being protested on the national level, right? When it comes to black on black crime, and I spoke about this earlier, there are other instances of black people stepping up to combat black on black crime within the communities. They don't necessarily have to be affiliated with the Black Lives Matter movement, right? But the point of the Black Lives Matter movement stemmed from black lives being taken away at the hands of the state, and the state not holding those accountable for doing so when it was done needlessly. That was the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden black folks don't give a fuck about black on black crime. The point that I make when it comes to talking about black on black crime is the only time that black on black crime is ever brought up is when you talk about the systemic issues that foster things like black on black crime. When you bring up the fact that black people are disproportionately locked up, when you bring up the fact that black people are suspended at a disproportionate rate as opposed to their white counterparts, when you bring up any systemic issue, any cultural issue where black folks are disproportionately affected, all of a sudden black on black crime becomes the narrative when everybody, and when everybody deals with crime in their own neighborhoods. That's why I brought up the fact that white folks, when I brought up the statistics of the white people and their percentages of the crime that goes on in America, white folks are always talking about black on black crime so that they don't have to focus on the fact that they also so that the system that is in place that is disproportionately affecting black people is addressed. They talk about black on black crime to get you talking about something else so that you don't focus, so that you don't hold them accountable for the system that is in place. So they'll talk to you about black on black crime, but we never have this discussion about, well, what about white on white crime? Now, it's not to say, well, white people are doing it too, but it's the fact that the narrative is false because they don't never, it's a disingenuous argument. It's a disingenuous argument because you don't really care about black on black crime. You only care when we start talking about the systemic issues that are affecting black people.
Okay, and that's fair. What you said is fair. Everything you just said, can't even argue with you. Now, my platform. I talk about black on black crime all the time. I have always.
I'm very much aware, bro.
I've always focused on that. Just like white people, any of y'all listening, the reason why a lot of black people hate you is because you don't say shit. You don't say shit to your broken people. All them racists and them, you don't say nothing to them. I say something to my broken people. I'm only focused on my people, and the Black Panthers did not become the Black Panthers because they was up here begging politicians. Because no matter what you call it, that is begging white people. That's what they're doing. Why didn't they show up? Why did they show up there? Why not show up with that same vigor at a Chief Keef concert? Saying, listen, when y'all stop listening to this bullshit, it's killing black men. Why not none of that? Why not interrupt a rapper who's calling women bitches and hoes? I mean, most of these women are feminists. Why not show up to these rappers who are hypnotizing these young black boys into becoming misogynist pigs? Why not do that? Why go for the white people who don't give a shit? Right? Why go for them?
Well, just you bringing up Chief Keef, it wasn't necessarily a Black Lives Matter protest, but there was an incident that happened. A child got shot in Chicago. Chief Keef talked about doing a concert. He was going to do a benefit concert to pay for the proceeds of the funeral and everything else, and they shut that shit down.
As they should have.
They shut that shit down in Chicago because of the fact that Chief Keef and his music perpetuates the same violence that ended up in that child being dead. But again,
it's like a drug dealer who hands out turkeys in the hood. He's still a drug dealer.
But that kind of goes to my point that these things happen. They're just not talked about often enough. You know, and I talked about the Detroit 300, and I talked about Chance the Rapper and things like that. There are a lot of different instances of these things happening around the country. And
so why aren't the women bringing this to the light? Why are they have the platform to show the world what's going on? How come they're not bringing it to light? They don't give a fuck about the Detroit 300. They didn't mention them. They didn't invite them. They're not helping them. They're not giving them some of that George Soros money. No. Why? I'm saying why? Yes, George Soros money. Why are they not helping him?
Well, here's the thing, man. Like I said, there's a role to play for everybody, and just because it's just because the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't encompass everything black folks, right?
Then why call it that? Why call it that? It's a civil rights movement. They're fighting for gay rights and they're fighting for American rights, poor American rights. That's what they're fighting for. These laws that they're trying to get changed are not going to only apply to black people. There's nothing black specific in their platform. They are fighting for civil rights. And let's call it that. All lives does matter for what they're fighting for. So
all lives matter is what. It's a misnomer.
Really?
It's a misnomer. And here's why. We know that all lives matter. I don't think anybody who is perpetuating the Black Lives Matter movement is saying that all lives don't matter.
Yes, they are.
Anybody who thinks that sounds a bit odd.
Really? Okay, then how come when O'Malley mentioned it, they shouted? First of all, they asked O'Malley, answer a question. When he starts answering, they start shouting him down.
If hold on, I'm gonna use your cancer reference, right? If we're at a cancer rally, right, and we're all talking about we're trying to fight cancer, right? Yeah. And then I get up in the middle of this cancer rally and start talking about, well, what about my AIDS?
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong motherfucking spot.
That's right.
I'm in the wrong spot. So if I'm talking about AIDS when I'm at a cancer rally, everybody looking at me like, man, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, it's not to say that AIDS don't matter.
Hold on, let me stop you right there because I heard that.
But that's what we're talking about right here.
No. Because what you to put that in proper perspective, there was already an AIDS thing going on, and cancer showed up. Hey, we taking over, or we gonna shut this whole shit down. Come on, let's keep it right. They already had that. That was their platform. These people are storming their shit. It's not like they had something going on and they came and interrupted them. So I saw that whole meme, and that was ridiculous. Right?
No, that's not even about being a meme. And here's the thing. And even when we talk about like cancer and AIDS and all this other stuff, right?
And it's terrible for us to talk about and compare it to. But go ahead.
No, but it's kind of apropos in the way that we talk about why these people are talking about X, Y, and Z. Right? It's kind of apropos. It's an analogy, but it's kind of apropos. But the fact that these women came to, say, for instance, a Bernie Sanders event or came to talk to Hillary Clinton or whatever, is because Bernie Sanders wants these people's votes. Let's not get this mistaken. Bernie Sanders wants these people's votes.
I think he's already worked for it.
Exactly. Say that again.
I think he's already worked for it.
Well, he's working for it, but that's
I think his history shows he works for it. And I know the rats want to say, well, it ain't about what you did, what you gonna do. They didn't ask that of Obama at all. He was good looking and he was black. That's all it took. They didn't ask that of Clinton. And that's why neither one of them presidents did anything specifically for it.
What's funny? What's funny is whether or not they did it to those folks or not, in your perspective, why would you begrudge them for doing it now when that's exactly what you're demanding of them? Why would you begrudge them for doing it now when that is exactly what you're demanding of the people, right?
Listen,
you didn't do it for such and such. You didn't do it for such and such. Okay, we're doing it now. Why are you mad?
Okay. If they need to call anyone to task, they need to call Hillary to task. Period.
Now, if Hillary doesn't get, hold on, they can call Hillary to task by not voting for Hillary. See, that's another thing too.
They don't have a voter block.
Hold on, you don't think black women have a voter block? Are you serious?
Nope. Nope. They can't even agree on what the hell they talking about in this thing.
If you think that Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley are going to be the president of the United States without a plethora of black folks, black women voting for them.
Oh, I know.
You got another thing.
No. This is true. But they're going to vote for Hillary. They're going to vote for Hillary, even though she's the worst thing for them. But because her guy is funding they're going to vote for her. They're trying. Listen, this whole thing, make no mistake, this whole thing is to get Bernie Sanders off. Bernie Sanders is the only friend that black people possibly have, because people could say, well, what does Hillary's platform have to do with her husband's? How many married couples do you know that's not in sync with their ideology? Come on. Her husband put more black and Latino men in prison than anyone else in American history, and put more undertrained cops on the streets. Everything you are dealing with right now is due to Democratic policy as it is. But if you must vote Democrat, you must vote for Bernie Sanders. At this point, that's all you got.
If you vote Bernie Sanders, right? If he's the only option that you got, right? If he's the only option that you have, then you hold Bernie accountable to some shit and say, hey, I need you to do this if you want this vote. I need you to promise me this. If
they don't have a voter block. Who's their voter block? They don't have they ain't came to me and said, listen, we're the Black Lives Matter movement. This is what we're asking for. Or do you agree? Hell yeah, I'm down with you too. They haven't even did that. They just showing up with purple hair screaming, we're going to shut it down right now. We are being reasonable. That's all. This is ridiculous. These are rats. This is 40 plus years of single mother homes, right? You get a chance to be in front of Hillary Clinton, and you put the most effeminate, weakest man you could possibly find. She just punked him all the way down. She just punked all of them. She was trying to tell them, this is the way you come at me. If you're going to come at a politician, this is the way you come. She was trying to tell them without saying it. But they were like, we just want white people to be nice because we love white people. That's all this whole fucking movement is about. This whole movement's about. And this is why more men need to step up and need to start taking care of their children and raising up a supple, strong race so we don't have to deal with this bullshit.
Ask yourself this question.
Yeah.
What's stopping men from doing that shit right now?
Who? Stopping who?
Black men. What is stopping black men from doing that shit right now?
Because they don't know what a daddy looks like. Because they mama didn't choose.
No. There's a lot of men out here who knows what a daddy looks like. What is stopping these men from doing that shit right now?
They some sorry ass niggas. What? Because they never had the proper training.
Sorry ass niggas. Come on, man. I know you're not saying
that. They have children. No, you obviously, if you say what's stopping them from doing it, we're talking about fathers, correct?
We're talking about black men, period.
No, we're talking about fathers.
Hold on. If we're talking about, if we're talking about, well, we got this effeminate dude up there, you got these women up there, and everything else. There's absolutely nothing stopping a bunch of strong dudes standing up to say, this is what we need and this is what we want. You need to fuck with us. There's nothing stopping that. But instead, it's a lot of brothers sitting off to the side talking shit about these women who are doing this shit.
Those brothers out there calling people like me coons. They're calling people like me coons. They're making excuses for niggas killing motherfuckers. Oh, yeah, that's just how it is. It's not a problem. It's always when white people do it too. They calling me a coon. That's what they doing. Because I'm doing my part. There's only so much I could do as one. I got my Black Pearl Project where I help young Black people. I got my, my business. I take care of my children. I do what there's only so much I can do. I'm a business owner, but I'm not rich. I'm broke, as a matter of fact. But I would rather do that than to work for somebody.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, like I said, I can talk about this because I do what I do. I don't believe in the political system. That's why I'm so happy that D's Nuts is now on the ballot. I'm so happy because that's the perfect representation of what the Democratic Party really is. But all I'm saying is, it's always a good thing when Black people get together and represent. Okay, but the Panthers were the Panthers. Malcolm was Malcolm because they were focusing on Black people. When Malcolm did a speech, he wasn't talking to white people. He wasn't begging white people for nothing. You need to change this. He told you were political chumps for voting Democrats, but you still do it.
They were voting Republican at the time, bro.
Huh?
They were voting Republican at the time.
What are you talking about? When Malcolm died?
When Malcolm died.
No.
Black folks were voting overwhelmingly Republican, brother.
Martin was a Republican. Yes, I know. That's what I talked about that on the last podcast.
And Black people were voting overwhelmingly Republican back then.
But Malcolm, being the prophet he was, knew where Black people were going, because you can't say that no more. Okay? And he told you are political chumps voting for the Democratic Party because they make slaves out of you. And sure enough, Black president, Democrat, 2 terms. At the end of his term, you want to come with Black Lives Matter because nothing has changed for you, because all you want to do is march, riot, complain, and cry, which does not work, right? Boycotts work. Organization works. The Panthers were organized by men leading their communities, being strong for the young men to grow up and learn how to be fathers. The Nation of Islam, if Black people must choose a religion, the Nation of Islam was the only choice for them. I'm sorry, because they focused on womanhood and motherhood, manhood and fatherhood, right? And if Allah can make my son a better man than Jesus can, then I'm all for it. What movie is that? Go. What movie is it?
That's Malcolm X, man.
No, that was Menace to Society. Remember?
Oh, wait.
Yeah. He said that now.
Oh, it's Dutton. In the class.
Yes, Dutton, yeah.
Charles is Dutton. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm anti-religious of any kind, but I'm gonna say if Black people must collectively choose a religion, that was the one.
I'm cynical of the church and everything around in that too.
Yeah, I do. I'm cynical of any religion, but I'm saying if Black people must choose one, that was the one, right? So, I'm all for Black people organizing, but I'm not all for Black people begging from a system that historically has proven again and again that they are not fucking with you, right? You have to empower yourself. Respect is not something that you beg your way into. It is something that you take, right? That's all I'm saying.
Like how they took the mic from Bernie Sanders.
You say what?
Kind of like how they just took the mic from Bernie Sanders.
That wasn't no, because they took the mic to speak to who?
They took the mic to speak to not only the people in that crowd, but to speak to the people who were going to be listening for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but who were they talking to? They were talking to a bunch of white people who were like, we don't give a fuck what you're talking about, green hair. They didn't care about what them women are talking about. You know what I'm saying? They still don't. All they're doing is isolating themselves from the Democratic Party. Democratic Party like, fuck these niggas. We got Latinos and gays that we can bring in and fuck them. And which is a great, because we need to abandon the Democratic Party and get our own voter block and create some real power and some real movement. So that's the only good thing that's coming out of this movement, because other than that, anything Black specific is civil rights. If you're talking about them, no more police brutality, that's civil rights. That's going to be for everyone. That's Black people's problem. They always marching for civil rights instead of Black rights.
Yeah, man. Well, I look at it like this, and I think we can start coming up on the closing arguments here.
Okay.
But I look at it like this. I look at it as there comes a point in time where you get tired of certain shit happening and you need to speak to it. You need to let the motherfuckers know the ones who are doing this to you, let these motherfuckers know how much you're going to tolerate and what you won't tolerate, right? Mm-hmm. To a large degree, even though some take issue with the fact that this is a women-led movement, these women have been at the forefront of saying what I talked about the fact that there isn't anything stopping Black men from doing it. But for whatever reason, we choose not to. And at the same time, choose to denigrate the sisters who are actually out there on the front line speaking and speaking truth to power. So I'm in support of the Black Lives Matter movement because I understand that even though there are issues within our communities that we can attack, that there are also instances where we also must attack the systemic issues that are affecting our communities as well. And if we don't speak to those systemic issues, if we choose to just kind of beat ourselves up and allow those who don't fuck with us to give us our narrative as to what we are supposed to do, as opposed to what they should be doing to fix the system that they put in place, then I think we're in a real fucked up position, especially when we start repeating the same things that those who hate us say to us. So when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement, I am in support of it. I applaud those sisters for speaking truth to power. I don't consider it begging. I consider them freedom workers, or freedom. How can we put this? What's a real good title for this?
Hood rats. I'm fucking with you. Go.
We will not call them sisters hood rats, man. We will not call those hood rats. I appreciate the work that these women are putting forth, and those in support who are actively on the ground, who are actively dealing with the system. I appreciate the work that they're putting forth, and I give my wholehearted support to it. And I would hope that a lot of brothers would kind of get off of their shoulders, instead of talking shit about them, would kind of lend some more support to them.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk shit about it. So I'm going to tell you like this. There's a way to present yourselves, ladies. You got Michelle Obama and you got Nene Leakes. Y'all been going with the Nene Leakes approach. That shit is whack. Don't know, dude. That's not attractive. It's not marketable. It's horrible. You got Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe is on your side, right? Because she knows that you're the main audience that's buying her rate. That's why Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, none of them said shit, because they relying on everybody. All lives matter to their record sales. Janelle knows that y'all the only ones buying her shit. And so the same thing with Jadena. You got her. Use her as your face. You know what I'm saying? Stop getting purple hair people and don't nobody bring me no bad news people and putting them up there, because this is a bad look. Nobody's buying what you're selling, because you are selling something. I understand that it's like, well, this is a movement. It shouldn't matter. Yes, it does matter. You're trying to sell something. It matters, right? Just look at the news. They selling seriousness, but they always get good looking people to do it, right? And you got to understand something. White people don't care. They don't give a shit. They do not care. They have proven historically again and again and again they don't give a fuck about what you're saying. You know what you're saying. What you need to do, ladies, is you need to bring that energy home. Bring it home. Educate these young sisters. These young sisters. You know, if they don't have kids, educate them on how to find a man that's going to be a father to those kids. If they do have kids, educate them how to raise those kids. Educate the young Black men and women who live in these neighborhoods how to deal with police confrontations. Teach them their rights. Let's have some economic education going on. You guys look, call George Soros, call him, tell him we need money. We want to put Black businesses in these areas so we can provide Black jobs. But, you know, we got to do something about this Black crime. So what we want to do is we want to create a snitching program, not a no snitching program to if Ray it makes the block hot and puts all of our sons at risk of police brutality, then Ray's got to go. That's all there is to it, right? So that we can clean this neighborhood up slowly, one neighborhood at a time, build up business, build up infrastructure, empower the people there, create a voting block, right? With a clear agenda. Team yourself up with these churches and all that. Come up with an agenda. So the next time you stand in front of Hillary Clinton, you could tell her, this is what we need. This is what we want. And this is what we will have if you're going to get our vote. Instead of, oh, well, you're white. And if you can talk to white people, tell them to be nice to it. Stop all that begging. Let's get some black empowerment. Learn from the Panthers, right? I love Martin, but don't learn from him. All right, that was a whole different time. Learn from the Panthers. Learn from Malcolm. That's all I got to say from it.
All right, man. All right. Yeah, this has been the Art of Disagreement with Mr. Spann and Mr. Gates. Getting ready to sign off, but before we get out of here, brother, tell the people how they can get in touch with you.
Haterazzi. Search Haterazzi. That's me. I don't care. Just Google search. You're going to find my Instagram. You're going to find my Facebook. You're going to find my website. Haterazzi. That's it.
All right. All right. Yeah, and I'm Mr. Spann. And yeah, if you got any
let me say this. I'm sorry. Let me say this. First of all, I want to say I was so rude. I didn't say congratulations to Mr. Spann for his recent marriage. Dude got married a couple of weeks ago. So congratulations to you, sir. And
thank you, brother.
I also want to throw a shout out to the young listeners who are listening. A lot of people, I think, were thinking they were going to come here and see a fight. And of course, you addressed this at the beginning of the show. Yeah. But Spann is my dog. We've already argued this already over the phone, just so y'all know. I already knew what he was coming with. He knew what I was coming with. And that's why this was able to go on so long as it is. Young black men and women, it is time for us to be able to discuss these polarizing topics without allowing it to descend into something crazy. Yeah, sometimes you can roast each other a little bit. Okay, but as long as at the end of the day, you guys can shake hands and not allow it to deteriorate into something crazy, that's what this is all about. That's why we created the Art of Disagreement. Mr. Spann, I thank you so much for having me on your platform.
Thank you for coming on, brother. Real talk, real talk. But for those of you who went back and let your voice be heard, of course, you can leave a voicemail. Tell us what you think at 313-288-0485. That's 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemails. I will play those voicemails on the show, and I will respond to those voicemails here on the show. You can also email me at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. And I'll reply to those emails here on the show. Chop it up with me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms, of course, is Mr._Spann. Leave a review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio, preferably 5 stars, but the 5-star reviews are the only ones that are going to get read, right? But let the people know what you're thinking about the Spann Report podcast. It allows other people to know what's going on here, and it helps the show grow, and it doesn't cost you shit, right? And for all of your Spann Report needs, go to thespannreport.com. All of the podcasts. This will also be available on thespannreport.com. It's actually streaming live on thespannreport.com. And yeah, man, yeah. Hopefully, you guys got a lot from this discussion. Hopefully, you walk away from this discussion thinking about things a little bit differently than you probably came into it before. But yeah, man, we got to get out of here. So until next time, fam. Peace.
Peace.